Welcome to the 17th Hayley-Roxanna Crafts quick cross stitch video, where I share information, hints and tips on one area of cross stitch in a short video. In this video, I am focusing on how to do vertical half stitches on Evenweave fabric. So this is how vertical half stitches are shown on some charts, but they may be shown in other ways, so it is best to consult the instructions for your chart to understand how the designer has shown them if they are using them in their design. Vertical half stitches are worked in the same way as full cross stitches, but use half the space. If two vertical half stitches are shown in the same square, your work will show two squashed stitches side by side. Hence, they can also be known as squashed stitches or squat stitches. It is important to remember when stitching on Evenweave or other fabrics with high counts, you are normally stitching over two. So one square on the chart is equivalent to 4 squares on your fabric. So the square that you would be using to correspond with the square on the chart has 9 holes to it, 3 on each side and the one in the middle. This is where using Evenweave fabric can make stitching vertical half stitches easier, as you will see as I demonstrate them. So if the chart shows a vertical half stitch in the left half of the square, you would bring your needle up through the bottom left corner of the corresponding square on your fabric. Okay, so we're working in this square here. You would then take your needle down through the middle hole on the top of your square. So if you were doing a normal full cross stitch, you'd be going down through this hole, but for the vertical half, you go down through this hole in the middle. And it's having this hole in the middle that can make it easier when you are doing the vertical half stitches on Evenweave compared with when you're doing them on Ada fabric, as you haven't got to pierce the fabric. And then to complete the stitch, you'd want to come up in the middle hole on the bottom of the square and then down through the top left hole to give you your vertical half stitch in the left half of the square. If the chart shows a vertical half stitch in the right half of the square, you would need to bring your needle up through the middle hole on the bottom of the corresponding square. Okay, so we're working in this square here. For the normal full cross stitch, you would come up through this hole, but we're coming up through the middle hole at the bottom. And then you go down through the top right hole of your square. And then bring your needle up through the bottom right hole of that square. And take your needle down through the middle hole in the top of the square. Okay, so for your full cross stitch, you'd have come across to these holes, but for the vertical half, you go through the middle holes at the top and the bottom. If you normally stitch your cross stitches the opposite way to me, so instead of going left to right, then right to left, you go right to left first, and then left to right. And just to keep the look of your finished piece consistent, you need to do your vertical half stitches the same way. So if you were doing it in the right half of your square, you would come up in the bottom right corner, then down through the middle at the top, and then up in the middle at the bottom, and down into the top right, to give you exactly the same stitch, but done in the directions that you normally stitch your full cross stitches in. Doesn't matter which way you do, it is personal preference. You just want to keep it consistent throughout your work. Vertical half stitches are used by designers to add more detail in a small space in their design. They can be surrounded by full cross stitches or other vertical half stitches, horizontal half stitches, or any kind of stitch. Designs with vertical half stitches tend to be more advanced. If you have any questions about vertical half stitches, please pop them in the comments. And in next week's video, I will demonstrate back stitching on Ada and Evenweave fabric.